of the different interactions that you'll need to have with the iLab Solutions website as a project manager. I'm also going to give you just a brief, very general overview of what the system will do and why we are going to be using it with these 4 cores. I'm going to record this meeting today, and Beth will make it available to you via a web link so that if there are any pieces that you've missed or you just need a refresher, you'll be able to go and view that video whenever you like. We are also going to provide a manual for you that will give you step-by-step instructions that you can refer back to. But iLab is a system that will allow researchers to request work directly from the core or to reserve time on equipment. And I know that 2 of the cores do not charge for their services and 2 do. So billing and invoicing from the 2 charging cores will come through the iLab system. And we'll take a look at invoices today. And then even when you do request a service that does not have a dollar amount charged to it, you'll receive an invoice just as a FYI so that you can see exactly the work that was done. We also have quite a few different resources here in the system for you to be able to manage members of your lab, what funding sources they use, a little bit of reporting for you, and several things that I hope will make your life easier. I'm going to start out here on the home page. Now, you will have a customized login link that will be provided to you, but that link isn't live just yet, and so I've not used it for today. When you first log into iLab, you will be taken to this home page. I'm actually going to jump over to the core website. Again, you haven't been provided with a link to the core site because it is not live just yet. We will get specifics to you on how you're going to access this website as soon as it is live in our system. You'll be able to log into iLab Solutions with your regular UK credentials. Both the username and the password will be the same for this system. You and your researchers can directly access the core to either request a project be done for you or to access calendars. Calendars are really very easy to understand because you simply click on the time that you'd like to reserve on the calendar of your preference. I do want to show you a little bit about how requesting services will work and how you and your researchers will choose your payment. This will just take a couple of minutes because I just want to give you a very high-level look at it. But in my test core here, I have projects and I have fixed cost services. Services are the different elements of the request. So where you're going to be focusing your time is going to be up here in the project and quote requests. You simply click on the link here to request a given service. There may be a form attached. You might be asked to provide specific information about the request. Sample data, things like that might be here for you. And in some cases, the services required to accomplish this particular request will be attached. In others, you're just making the request and the core will report back to you with what exact costs might be. Once all of that information has been filled out, you can come down here and this label for your live core will read cost object, and you're going to select your funding source here. If your researcher has more than one funding source available in your lab, they will all show up here. If a researcher has several different labs that they work with, maybe there are several different PIs that they're associated with, when they start their project request, they'll be asked to indicate which PI a given request is for. So when it comes time to choose payment, they will only see the payment options that are associated with the lab that this request is for. So in this case, this researcher only has one option available and they'll place it here. There will also be a free text box right here so that a statistical internal order number can be included if there is one attached to this funding source. So in this case, the researcher has filled out all of the required information and they're going to submit this request to the core. So that goes to the core automatically. And your status here, waiting for core to agree. This means the core is going to be looking over that request, adding any additional services, asking any additional questions that might be necessary to complete it, and then you'll be given a response back that includes the quoted amount. Researchers can communicate directly with the core here with messaging, and any messages sent here show up in the core's inbox and then also here in the system. When you log into the system, you will also have access to email communications, and I'm going to step over and show you that now. The first place you land when you log into iLab will be your home page. Here you will see some basic information. You see links to any cores used in the last couple of months, which is very helpful because it will direct you right where you need to go. And then any pending service requests that need your attention. So right now, this is waiting for core to agree. Once the core's had a chance to respond, that request will show up here on the researcher's homepage and also on the PI's homepage, because there are times that the PI may also need to approve that request. If you have any pending access requests, people who need to be a member of your lab, that will also show up right here for you. We have some other really useful links. My Reservations shows all reservations in the researcher's name. List All Cores shows all cores that are available both at the Markey Cancer Center, also across many institutions that utilize iLab. So if there is a core that accepts external business at another institution, it will be listed here. We've also included phone numbers for the different core admins because we found that really helps for cross-communication sometimes. All of your invoices will be available here. I believe this page is going to be blank, and that's okay because we're going to go over invoices in great detail in a few moments, but all of your pending invoices will show up here for you. I'm going to skip down to what I think is probably the most beneficial section, and that's My Labs. If you click this link, you will be given a list of all the labs that you manage within iLab. Patrick Sullivan only has this one. We're going to open it up and take a closer look at what you can do from inside the lab panel. I'm sorry I keep getting these warnings at the top here. You will not get those. It's because of the fact that we're in a testing site right now that you're seeing those. You'll have access, of course, to the production site that won't have any of that distracting information for you. When you first come to your lab site, you're going to see the members panel. This panel has a number of different things that you'll want to pay attention to when you first log into iLab. The first here is the auto approval threshold. And I showed you a few moments ago, generally, how researchers are going to make project requests of the core. This auto approval threshold allows you to control how much of that you want approval over. If you set the auto approval threshold very low, then you will need to log in to iLab and approve each request that goes over that amount. So currently, researchers that work with Patrick Sullivan can make a request of the core up to $500 without the PI having to make an individual approval. They also are allowed a $100 cost overage buffer. That means the difference between the quote and the final cost can be no more than $100 without the PI reapproving that request. Both of these numbers are numbers that you can control. You can move that up or down. I would recommend, at least starting out, that you not make this auto approval threshold 0. It sounds like it might be the safest choice, but what really happens is that you are then required to log into iLab and approve every single request, including requests for consultations made of the core, and also those requests for cores that do not charge. So if you want to kind of limit the volume of messages that you're going to get from iLab, and if you want to make sure that your researchers can work efficiently without you having to log in daily and check that, please do either leave it at the $500 amount or take into account the kinds of requests your researchers do and set that amount to accommodate it. The next thing that you can do here from the membership panel is add existing users to your lab. So in this case, I'm going to just click here to link an existing user, and I'm going to use my name because I know I'm in the system, and I can actually just link that user to my lab, and I can either make them a member, a manager, or a PI. There should typically only be one PI in each lab. However, we do know that oftentimes PIs will delegate approval of requests, approval of lab membership, and some of the budgeting to someone else within their lab. That designee should be in the lab as a manager. And that allows the manager to make those kinds of basic approvals and to see invoices. So you should be listed as the PI, your designee should be listed as the manager, and everyone else should be entered as a member. So I'm going to make Michelle just a member of this lab. Great, and then I'm going to refresh the page to see that change. It did not add it for me. This is our testing site, and occasionally we do have issues, but let's take a look here and see if I can get me added. Does not seem to like me today. Well, I've not ever seen that happen in our production site, so I'm going to chalk it up to this being our test site, and I apologize for that. But you will just be able to click here, and it'll add it, and then you'll see them show up right here. Once they're here in the top portion, you can make some changes to their account right here. You click on the yellow pencil, and this will open up a window that allows you to give this individual user a separate auto approval amount. And also, if you prefer them to be the person that receives and reviews invoices, you can make them the core financial contact. The other thing that you can do here, that little green number sign, by the way, lets us know that this is the financial contact. All right, so now I'm going to hop over to the membership requests. On this page, you will see any pending access requests listed here. Just to give you an idea of what that really means, when new users first sign up to iLab, they're asked to indicate the name of their PI. PI accounts are created by our system, but user accounts have to be created the first time the user logs into iLab. When they do that, you'll get a notice here just to say John Smith has requested access to your lab, and then you'll see a button that will allow you to either approve or deny that request. Anytime you get a membership request that is done mistakenly and you deny it, then your institutional administrator will get a note to say, hey, this person is looking for the wrong lab, and so that they can manage it. Here you will see the different funds that this particular researcher has access to. So if Patrick had 4 or 5 other researchers that worked in this lab, they would all have checkboxes here. If Patrick had many, many different cost objects, he would be able to assign those just by clicking the button. So you just click the box to say this particular researcher is allowed to use this fund. Until you've taken that step, researchers are not able to make requests in our system. So as soon as we go live, and we've given it a couple of days for researchers to all get signed up in the system, it's very important that you log into the system, take a look at this membership request page, and ensure that all of your researchers are assigned cost objects so that they'll be able to proceed with making requests. You can also make a particular funding source unavailable to anyone in iLab, meaning it won't show up on any drop-down menus, and it won't show up here to be assigned to anyone. If you have a great number of funding sources available, it can be really helpful to just pull the ones that you don't want used out altogether so that it doesn't give you some visual noise up here. You'll also have the ability here, there'll be a secondary window that will give you the ability to ask for access to funds that you do not see. So if for any reason there's a funding source that isn't appearing, perhaps it's a department fund, you would simply ask the system to give you access to that fund. And as soon as iLab has verified that it is an active fund in our system, then it will show up right here along with the other funding sources so that you can assign it to users. I want to take just a quick minute too and walk through the Budgets tab. Budgets are a great way for you to track spending and activity in your lab. You can set up a budget for an individual lab member. You can check by core, or you can just set a budget for all spending all lab members across cores. In this case, we're going to set a budget just for a member, and I'm going to choose Patrick Sullivan. I'm going to choose a monthly budget, and I'm going to give him $500 to spend. And as soon as I save that budget, you'll see what it will do for you. It gives you a quick overview of what they've spent against their budgeted amount. Now, this is an informational page only. So in other words, you can't set a limit. You cannot say, all right, after Patrick Sullivan has spent $3,000, I don't want him to make any other requests of the system. We can't do that in iLab because your researchers are also spending in non-iLab services across the university. So we're not going to close it off to them, but we do allow you to keep an eye on it. If you see at some point that a researcher is getting too close to the end of his budgeted total, then you can simply come over to your membership requests and funds tab and remove that fund. The other thing that you can do, just to make life easier for your researchers, is if you have a given funding source that you want a particular researcher to use primarily, you can set that as their default fund. What that does, pop over here and make a request again. It sets the default fund to be the first choice in their drop-down menu. So, for example, it didn't show up here for me. Instead of having 7 or 8 different funds and they have to scroll down and choose the given one, if you set a default fund right here, then that's going to be the first one on their drop-down menu, and then they can choose others as directed. Now, I've gone through these tabs at pretty breakneck speed, I know, and the other ones, the group settings and the bulletin board and protocols, are not relevant to you. You really are just going to be working with these first 3 tabs. I'd like to spend a little bit of time on reporting, and I'd like to look at an invoice, but I wanted to stop for a moment and see if anyone had questions on the material we've covered so far. Okay, I will go ahead and hop over to an invoice and show you what that will look like. Invoices will be emailed through the system, but when you click on the link in your email, you actually can get to the live invoice. The thing that's nice about that is if you need to, you can come directly to the invoice, and you'll see here that we've got each service itemized for you, and you can change your funding choice here. So you'll be able to click here on the green $ and make adjustments to funds if necessary. This particular invoice did not allow me to do that because, again, being in a testing environment, this particular researcher did not have any other funds available. So it said, no, you have to stay with the one fund that we had in the system for you. But if you have multiple funds, or if you have a fund that is expiring, you can make the change here. We also have a little bit of space here that we will be able to use for notes. So we've got notes that you can write here for the core and notes that the core can write back to you. And then we have a record of it right here on the invoice, and that can be really helpful for you sometimes as well. Now I'm going to pop back over to my testing site and show you what our reporting will look like. So right here on the left, we have your reporting tab. Now, currently, there isn't a lot of information here for us to report on because it's the testing system, but I do at least want to show you what the reports will look like and the kind of information that iLab can help pull together for you. So we have a default report loaded here that has quite a bit of information. There's just no live data right now, so let me see if I can pull this back. And pull this out and see if I can get anything. All right, so this researcher does not have any live information here for me to report on, but let me show you the basic structure. We have an excellent, very inclusive report here. You can customize it here. You can include or disclude any information that you need. So you can go into each line of this report and edit what kind of graphing you'd like to see, how you need things grouped, and exactly what you'd like to have reported on. You can save a report after you've built it. You can use the filters here to dial down to exactly the information that you need. And then once your report has been run, you can also export it here. The thing that I find extremely useful here is you can actually download the source data. So if there's information that you need to pull out that iLab does not currently pull, you can download the source data here, and that gives you everything, and then you can do what you need to do with it. If you have annual reporting that maybe the needs aren't met here in the system, you can capture all the data there. We have a tutorial here that I would highly encourage you, after we're a couple months into iLab usage and you have more live data to work with, and you want to get a better look at exactly the kind of reporting you can do, please take a look at this. I think it's 10 minutes or so reporting tutorial where we take you through everything that this tool can do, and you get to see what it looks like, because then you can go back and play with it with your own data once we have live information for you in the system. I have one more resource here too that I'd like to draw your attention to. At the top of every page, you're going to see this Leave iLab Feedback link that is always available for you, and this is a very direct way to get a hold of support. If you have questions, if you have concerns, if there's something that you need very quick attention with, we have the ability for you to label that here. So if you just have something that you'd like to see acting in a different way, we absolutely do want to hear that, and you would just label that under suggestions to consider. But the two actually that I'd like you to pay the most attention to are urgent and non-urgent problems. So when you report a non-urgent problem, we get back to you just as soon as possible, but an urgent problem, we get back to you as immediately as possible. So I would look for an urgent problem. You're going to get a response back from support within hours. And we take it very seriously. This is the fastest way for us to reach you. And we really do want to hear your questions, your concerns, and of course, if you have any urgent issues. So use this form to let us know if there are funds that are not showing up for you, if a piece of the system is not performing the way you'd like it to, or if you don't have access to something that you should have access to. Please let us know, and we will use that form to contact you just as quickly as possible and get your problems resolved. We also have an email link available, and it's going to be on the manual that we will be sending you. But I really like the Leave iLab Feedback best because it's the fastest way for you to contact us. And then if you do have a support ticket, you can just click on the support link here, and it gives you very detailed information about any requests that may be outstanding. So that is a brief update on the system, what you can expect it to look like, and what you can accomplish from within iLab. I look forward to working with you, and I hope that you've found all the information you need here. But if you need some backup, please know that we will be sending you a detailed manual momentarily, and that will enable you to walk back through this information a little bit more slowly if you like. And of course, we'll have this video available for you as early as tomorrow. Thanks so much, everyone.